She was silently scrubbing floors at Boston's most prestigious hotel when she answered the phone in perfect Italiana moment that would forever change the invisible woman everyone had overlooked. Witness the extraordinary journey of Maya Chen, a brilliant linguist forced to abandon her Harvard dreams after tragedy struck, who hid her mastery of 9 languages behind a janitor's uniform until the one night someone finally saw her true value. This story of hidden talent, crushing responsibility, and ultimate triumph will transform how you see the invisible people in your own world. If you've ever felt unseen or underestimated, this story will remind you that sometimes our greatest gifts shine brightest after our darkest moments. Subscribe now and join our community of believers who know that true potential never remains invisible forever. She was silently mopping the marble floors of Boston's most prestigious hotel when the abandoned phone rang at the front desk, and in that single moment, everything changed. The night air in Boston was bitter with winter's edge, as the city slept beneath a blanket of freshly fallen snow. Street lamps cast long shadows across the empty sidewalks, while taxicabs occasionally disturbed the silence. Far from the gleaming skyscrapers of downtown, in a modest third-floor apartment on Dorchester Avenue, a single lamp illuminated the small kitchen table where Maya Chen sat cross-legged, whispering Italian verb conjugations with quiet determination. "Io sono tu sei, Lue," she murmured, her pencil moving steadily across the worn notebook filled with neat columns of vocabulary in multiple languages. Her voice remained low, careful not to wake her teenage siblings sleeping in the next room. A second-hand laptop played an Italian podcast, paused every few sentences as Maya jotted down unfamiliar words, her pencil chewed down to the metal band. It was nearly 11 p.m. Her shift at the Harrington Grand Hotel began at midnight sharp, giving her just enough time to change into her uniform, pack her faded work shoes, and check on Lily and Michael before catching the last train into the city. The apartment was silent now, both teenagers asleep beneath mismatched blankets that Maya had found on clearance last winter. She paused at their doorway, watching them with a tenderness that belonged to someone much older than her 31 years. Since the fire that claimed both their parents 4 years ago, she had become everything at once: provider, protector, teacher, and fierce guardian against a world that didn't expect much from women like her. Maya had long since abandoned the luxury of complaints. Her life operated on grit, obligation, and whatever small fragments of hope she could salvage between cleaning hotel suites and helping Michael with his science projects. That night, she adjusted the edge of their blankets, gently turned up the heat despite knowing the electricity bill would suffer, and whispered the same promise she made every night: "We're going to make it." She wasn't always certain she believed her own words, but still, she said them. By 11:40, she was at the train station, her cleaning supplies tucked into a worn backpack, her long black hair secured tightly beneath a plain knit cap. She avoided eye contact with strangers and kept her focus inward, mentally reviewing Persian phrases she'd been studying that week. The Harrington Grand stood like a beacon among Boston's historic architecture, 18 stories of limestone and glass overlooking the public garden. Illuminated against the night sky, it housed diplomats, celebrities, and business moguls, all of whom passed by Maya without a glance, their eyes sliding past her navy uniform as if she were merely another piece of the hotel's furniture. Her badge simply read, Maya, maintenance, but her mind was always elsewhere, lost in the beautiful complexity of language, the one inheritance her Chinese immigrant parents had insisted was more valuable than any material possession. Words, her father once told her, are the keys that open any door in the world. As she swiped her ID card and entered through the service entrance, Maya wondered if he had been right after all. No one expected Maya's life to shatter so completely that winter night 4 years ago when the phone call came. She had been sitting in Harvard's linguistics library, surrounded by books on Indo-European language patterns, when her phone lit up with her neighbor's number. Within hours, her promising academic career had gone up in flames, just like her childhood home. The memory still haunted her as she pushed her cleaning cart through the Harrington Grand's hushed corridors. Maya's professors had begged her to continue her studies, offering extensions and part-time options, but reality had crushed those possibilities beneath its unforgiving weight. 2 teenagers with no other family needed more than academic theories and dissertation chapters. They needed stability, food, and someone who wouldn't abandon them to the foster care system. So Maya had sold her textbooks one by one, each transaction like cutting away a piece of herself. The pristine first edition of Comparative Syntax Across Asian Languages had paid for Michael's asthma medication last winter. Her prized collection of linguistic journals had covered 3 months of utility bills. Each sacrifice carved deeper lines around her eyes, aging her well beyond her years. Tonight, as Maya methodically cleaned the ornate lobby during the quietest hours, she listened to a Portuguese lesson through a single wireless earbud, a birthday splurge she justified as an investment. The hotel's massive chandeliers cast dancing shadows across marble floors as she worked, invisible to the night manager who passed without acknowledgement. The problem with invisibility, she whispered to herself in Mandarin, is eventually you start to believe you don't exist. In the morning, after her shift ended at 8 a.m., Maya would ride the train back to Dorchester, wake the kids for school, prepare their lunches, and check Lily's calculus homework. She would sleep for 4 fragmented hours before Michael returned home, needing help with his science project. Then she would cook dinner from whatever she could find on sale, help with more homework, and try to study Japanese for an hour before exhaustion claimed her. The only space truly her own was the tiny bathroom in their apartment, where she had taped hundreds of language flashcards to the walls and shower curtain, Spanish verbs above the toilet, Russian noun cases around the mirror, Mandarin characters climbing the bathroom door. It was there, sometimes sitting fully clothed on the closed toilet lid at 3 a.m., that Maya would silently weep, not from self-pity but from the sheer force of dreams deferred. What would her parents think of her now? Her father, who had worked 2 jobs to put himself through engineering school after immigrating from Shanghai, had always said education was the only possession no one could steal. Her mother, who spoke 5 languages fluently, had taught Maya her first French words at age 3. They had sacrificed everything for her potential, believing their daughter would reach heights they couldn't imagine. Instead, here she was, scrubbing bathroom fixtures while wealthy guests slept, the weight of responsibility crushing the academic ambitions they had nurtured. Yet even as tears occasionally slipped down her cheeks during these solitary moments, Maya would straighten her spine, wipe her face, and whisper in her parents' native tongue, "I haven't forgotten what you taught me, I'm just taking a different path." The kids never saw her cry. To them, she was unbreakable, their constant in a world that had proven how quickly everything could change. Right at that moment, when Maya believed no one would ever see beyond her uniform, fate orchestrated the collision of 2 worlds that should never have intersected. A midnight crisis at the Harrington Grand would tear away her carefully constructed invisibility forever. It happened during an unusually busy night shift. A disoriented Russian diplomat had stumbled into the lobby at 2 a.m., clearly lost and increasingly agitated as he tried to communicate with the night receptionist who had stepped away from the desk. The man's frustrated voice echoed through the marble lobby, his hands gesturing wildly as security hesitated nearby, unsure how to defuse the situation. Maya had been polishing the brass fixtures near the entrance, her body instinctively shrinking into the background, as she always did when guests appeared. But something in the diplomat's desperate tone pulled at her the universal language of someone lost and misunderstood in a foreign place. Before she could second-guess herself, Maya set down her cleaning cloth and approached. "Mogu ya vam pomach?" she asked softly in perfect Russian. "Can I help you?" The transformation on the man's face was instantaneous. His shoulders relaxed as a torrent of Russian poured forth. He had lost his room key, didn't remember his room number, and needed his medication from inside. With gentle efficiency, Maya translated for security, explained the hotel's protocols, and stayed with the grateful diplomat until a new key was issued. The entire exchange lasted less than 5 minutes before Maya returned to her cart, once again fading into the background. What she didn't notice was Ethan Harrington watching from the shadowed alcove near the elevators. The hotel owner had been conducting one of his regular midnight inspections, a habit from his early days when he'd worked the night shift himself at his father's much smaller establishment. The son of a janitor who had built an international hotel empire through relentless work, Ethan had never lost his connection to the operational heartbeat of his properties. The next morning, Ethan requested the security footage. He watched Maya effortlessly assist a Japanese family lost on their way to the restaurant, explain complicated tax forms to a Spanish businessman, and provide directions in flawless Mandarin to tourists from Beijing, all while performing her maintenance duties with quiet efficiency, all while being treated as if she were invisible. "Pull her employee file," he instructed his assistant, a puzzled frown creasing his forehead. The file revealed little. Maya Chen, 31, hired 4 years ago, perfect attendance, no complaints, no commendations. Education listed only as some college. No languages noted despite what he'd witnessed with his own eyes. The disconnect was jarring. 3 days later, Maya was cleaning the executive floor when her supervisor approached with an unusual message. Mr. Harrington requested to see her in his office immediately. Her hands trembled as she changed out of her maintenance uniform in the staff locker room. Had she done something wrong? Spoken to guests when she shouldn't have? Overstepped some invisible boundary? When she entered Ethan's corner office with its sweeping view of Boston Harbor, the cleaning supplies in her hands suddenly felt ridiculous. She clutched them tighter, like a shield. "Miss Chen," Ethan said, rising from behind his desk, "I speak 5 languages myself, and I've never heard anyone switch between tongues as naturally as you do." Maya's cleaning supplies clattered to the floor in shock. "How many languages do you actually speak?" he asked with genuine curiosity. She hesitated, years of self-preservation battling with honesty. 9 fluently, she finally admitted. "A few more conversationally." Ethan's eyebrows rose. "And you're cleaning floors at midnight because—" The question hung in the air between theme and bridge neither was sure could bear weight. Maya's answer would change everything. The revelation stunned everyone in the hotel when word spread that Maya Chen, the night janitor no one had bothered to notice for 4 years, had been appointed as the Harrington Grand's new Special Guest Relations Coordinator. The position, created specifically for her unique abilities, came with a corner office on the executive floor, a salary triple her previous wage, and benefits that would finally provide proper health care for Michael's asthma. The transition happened with dizzying speed. Within days, Maya found herself sitting in department meetings instead of cleaning them up afterward. Her uniform of pressed slacks and tailored blazers felt like a costume she had borrowed from someone else's life. But beneath the professional exterior, her confidence trembled like a newly hatched bird, vulnerable, exposed, and terrified of falling. "You don't belong here," whispered the voice in her head that sounded suspiciously like Victoria Lambert, the hotel's director of operations, whose tight smiles never reached her eyes. Victoria, with her MBA from Wharton and family connections to Boston's elite, made her opposition clear from the beginning. "Interesting hiring choice, Ethan," Victoria had commented during Maya's first executive meeting. "I wasn't aware maintenance staff were being fast-tracked to management now." The room had gone silent, colleagues shifting uncomfortably as Maya stared at her notepad, cheeks burning. The whispers followed her through hallways that once felt safer when she pushed her cleaning cart through them. Staff who had previously ignored her now scrutinized every move. Sleeping with the boss. Someone had written on her locker in the employee changing room. The words had been hastily wiped away, but their imprint remained, invisible yet burning like acid. Maya persevered, focusing on the work itself. She created language assistance protocols for international guests, streamlined translation services, and even began organizing optional language lessons for interested staff. When she successfully de-escalated a potentially disastrous misunderstanding with visiting Saudi investors, even Victoria had grudgingly nodded approval. But the true test came 3 weeks into her new position. The Harrington Group was hosting representatives from the United Arab Emirates for a potential investment deal worth millions. Victoria had handed Maya a folder just 30 minutes before the meeting. "The welcome speech needs translation into Arabic," she said. "Mr. Harrington will deliver it personally." Maya opened the folder and immediately recognized the deliberate sabotage. The text wasn't standard Arabic, but a confusing mix of formal expressions and colloquial Egyptian Arabic phrases that would be considered highly offensive to the Emirati guests. Worse, some phrases carried double meanings that would imply the Harrington Group questioned the delegates' financial stability. With hands shaking but mind clear, Maya locked herself in the small translation office and rewrote the entire speech, correctly formatting it for the cultural expectations of the visitors. When she handed the revised document to Ethan minutes before the delegates arrived, she included a note. Original translation contains serious cultural errors. This version is appropriate for our Emirati guests. The meeting was a success, but afterward, Maya found herself in the supply closet, gasping for breath as panic overwhelmed her. The pressure of constant scrutiny, the fear of failure, and the growing certainty that Victoria was actively trying to destroy her career crushed down on her chest until breathing seemed impossible. Maya? Ethan's voice came softly through the door. May I come in? When he found her sitting on an overturned bucket, tears streaming down her face, he didn't offer platitudes. Instead, he sat on the floor beside her, his $1,000 suit collecting dust, and told her about his first hotel, the one that failed spectacularly and left him bankrupt at 25. The people who expect you to stay in your place will never make room for you, he said quietly. You have to make your own space. If you've ever felt invisible, underestimated, or pushed aside, please hit that subscribe button now. We share stories like Maya's every week that remind us all that our greatest challenges often reveal our greatest strengths. Drop a comment below and tell us about a time someone didn't see your true potential and how you proved them wrong. The words Ethan spoke in that supply closet planted a seed of courage that would soon blossom in ways neither of them could have predicted. That small Momenta hotel magnate sitting on a dusty floor beside a weeping former janitor marked the true beginning of Maya's transformation. The following week, the Harrington Grand hosted a delegation from the U.S. State Department accompanying foreign diplomats for a regional economic summit. High-ranking officials in crisp suits filled the grand ballroom, their security details hovering discreetly along the walls. Maya had been tasked with overseeing the cultural and linguistic aspects of the event, a responsibility that would have been unimaginable just months earlier. As she circulated through the crowd, something subtle but profound had changed in her demeanor. Her shoulders no longer curved inward in an unconscious attempt to disappear. Her voice, once perpetually soft and apologetic, now carried across conversations with quiet authority. When she spoke French with the Senegalese ambassador or switched to Portuguese for the Brazilian trade minister, she no longer looked surprised at her own abilities. Midway through the evening, a senior State Department official began explaining traditional gift protocols to the Korean delegation, confidently asserting information that Maya immediately recognized as dangerously incorrect. In Korean culture, presenting certain gifts with the wrong hand or wrapped in the wrong color could severely offend important business partners. The old Maya would have remained silent, perhaps finding a way to correct the mistake privately later. But this new version of herself moved with purpose toward the group, her spine straight as steel. "Excuse me, Mr. Taylor," she said, her voice clear and direct. "There's an important cultural distinction regarding gift presentations that I believe would be valuable for this discussion." The official's eyebrows rose slightly, whether at the interruption or the confidence with which it was delivered. She couldn't tell. But he stepped aside, giving her the floor. Maya addressed the Korean delegates directly in their language, explaining the misunderstanding and offering the correct protocol with such nuance and respect that the lead delegate smiled broadly, offering a deep bow of appreciation. When she finished speaking, the room had fallen silent, attention fixed on this woman who commanded multiple languages, as if born to bridge worlds. From across the room, Victoria watched with an expression caught between surprise and reluctant respect. Beside her, Ethan observed without intervening, a subtle smile playing at the corners of his mouth. That evening marked a turning point. Within weeks, Maya initiated a cultural competency program for the entire hotel staff, teaching basic greetings in multiple languages and essential cultural protocols for their most frequent international guests. Front desk clerks, bellhops, and even maintenance staff began attending her optional lunchtime sessions, eager to learn from the woman whose story had begun to circulate throughout the hotel not as gossip now, but as inspiration. Her relationship with Ethan evolved too, moving beyond professional mentorship into something more complex and meaningful. During late evenings reviewing international expansion plans, their conversations would drift from business to personal history. His childhood, watching his father clean hotel rooms, her memories of translating medical documents for her parents at age 10. They recognized in each other a shared understanding of worlds traversed and barriers overcome. One evening, after a particularly successful meeting with international investors, where Maya had seamlessly navigated complex negotiations in 3 different languages, Ethan asked her to join him for dinner at a small Italian restaurant overlooking the harbor. "Do you know what I saw today?" he asked, after they had settled into their corner table. "I saw the person you were always meant to be, not just using your gifts, but claiming them, owning them without apology." Maya looked down at her hands that no longer bore the chemical burns of industrial cleaners, but still remembered the feel of every maintenance task she had performed. "I'm still afraid sometimes," she admitted, "that someone will realize I don't belong in those rooms." "That fear," Ethan said gently, "is the last part of you that still believes the lie that your worth is determined by where you started rather than where you're going." She raised her eyes to meet his, finding there not a boss or a benefactor, but an equal who recognized her journey because he had walked a similar path. That profound realization over dinner became the foundation for what happened next, a test that would push Maya beyond anything she had imagined possible. 6 months after her promotion, Ethan called an emergency executive meeting on a rainy Tuesday morning. The tension in the boardroom was palpable as he delivered the news. The Harrington Group's planned expansion into Singapore was in jeopardy. "Our local partners are threatening to pull out," Ethan explained, his normally confident voice tight with concern. "There's been a serious miscommunication about our design intentions for the property, and they believe we're not respecting local cultural elements." He paused, looking directly at Maya. "We need someone who understands both the business requirements and the cultural nuances to salvage this relationship. The Singapore property represents a $200 million investment in our entire Asia-Pacific strategy." The implications hung heavy in the air. This wasn't just another project, it was the cornerstone of Ethan's vision for the company's future and potentially its survival in an increasingly competitive global market. "I need someone to fly to Singapore immediately," he continued, "someone who can speak Mandarin, Malay, and enough Hokkien to show respect to the older board members. Someone who can rebuild trust and renegotiate terms without losing our essential requirements." Every eye in the room turned to Maya. The opportunity was monumental, but so were the obstacles. Taking this assignment would mean leaving Boston for at least 3 weeks. It would mean finding someone to care for Lily and Michael, trusting others with the fragile stability she had built for them. It would mean stepping completely out of the shadows into a spotlight that would either illuminate her talents or burn her completely. Maya's voice faltered, the weight of what Ethan was asking pressing against her chest. "Take the day to think about it," Ethan said gently, but the urgency behind his words was clear. There was no one else who could do what she could do. That evening, Maya sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by research on Singaporean business customs, her mind racing between professional ambition and personal responsibility. Lily found her there, staring at her laptop with tears threatening to spill. "What's wrong?" the 16-year-old asked, sliding into the chair opposite her sister. Maya explained the situation, her words tumbling out in a rush of conflicting emotions. "I can't leave you and Michael. It's too much, too far." Lily reached across the table and took Maya's hand. "Remember when Mom and Dad first came to America?" she asked. "They left everything behind so we could have opportunities they never had." "That was different," Maya protested. "No, it wasn't," Lily replied with surprising maturity. "They were scared too. But they went anyway because sometimes you have to cross oceans for the people you love. And for yourself." Later that night, Maya called Ethan. "I'll go," she said simply. "But I need help arranging care for my siblings." "Already done," he replied. "Victoria volunteered to check on them daily." Maya nearly dropped the phone. "Victoria? But she—" "Surprised me too," Ethan chuckled. "Said something about finally understanding what you've been juggling all these years." 3 days later, Maya stood in front of Singapore's most powerful real estate developers in a sleek conference room 53 stories above the glittering city. Her heart pounded against her ribs as she prepared to present the revised hotel plans she had spent every waking hour reworking to honor local architectural traditions while maintaining the Harrington brand identity. As she began speaking in Mandarin, then seamlessly transitioning to Malay for key cultural concepts, she noticed the skeptical expressions slowly softening around the table. When she addressed the eldest board member in halting but respectful Hokkien, acknowledging the importance of family legacy and Singaporean business culture, a ripple of appreciative murmurs circled the room. Halfway through her presentation, Maya's phone vibrated. Glancing down, she saw a photo message from Lily Shi and Michael grinning broadly, holding a hand-lettered sign with characters carefully copied from Maya's bathroom flashcards. Jiao, Chinese for keep going, you can do it. Something powerful and electric surged through Maya's veins. This moment standing confident and capable before some of Asia's most influential business leaders wasn't just about her anymore. It was about showing her siblings that limitations are often just illusions we've been taught to believe. It was about honoring parents who had crossed oceans with much less support than she had now. Taking a deep breath, Maya continued her presentation with renewed passion, her voice no longer betraying any hint of the doubt that had plagued her just days before. Against all odds, the Singapore presentation wasn't just successful, it was transformative. When Maya returned to Boston 2 weeks later, she stepped off the plane as someone entirely new, the woman she had always been meant to become. The Singapore developers had not only renewed their partnership with the Harrington Group, but had increased their investment after Maya's cultural adaptations improved the project beyond their expectations. What awaited her at the Harrington Grand's executive offices surpassed anything she could have imagined. A new nameplate gleamed on the door to what had been Victoria's corner office. Maya Chen, International Cultural Director. The position created specifically for her would oversee cultural integration for all Harrington properties worldwide. Your own division, Ethan explained, eyes bright with pride as he showed her the expanded office. With a team of 10 cultural and language specialists reporting directly to you. Maya's hand trembled slightly as she ran her fingers across the elegant desk where decisions would be made that affected thousands of employees across continents. 4 years ago, she had cleaned surfaces like this in the darkest hours of night, invisible to those who sat behind them. I have something else to show you, Ethan said, handing her an official-looking envelope bearing Harvard's crimson insignia. Inside was a letter from the Dean of International Studies offering Maya an honorary doctorate in applied linguistics and a visiting professorship position teaching cross-cultural business communication 1 evening per week. Your extraordinary talents and real-world applications of linguistic theory have come to our attention, the letter read. We would be honored to welcome you back to complete the journey that was interrupted. Maya pressed her hand to her mouth, tears spilling freely now. The circle was closing not returning her to where she had been, but elevating her to where her parents had always believed she could go. There's one more thing, Ethan said softly. He guided her to the window overlooking the hotel's main entrance where a new sign was being installed. The Chen Family Scholarship Fund for Displaced Students, endowed with $1 million from the Harrington Foundation. It will provide full tuition and living expenses for students who have lost parents and are caring for siblings, Ethan explained. Your story, your journey, will help others keep their dreams alive through impossible circumstances. Maya couldn't speak, her heart too full for words. She thought of her parents, of the sacrifices they had made crossing oceans with nothing but hope and determination. She thought of the nights spent cleaning floors while whispering Portuguese verbs to stay awake. She thought of Lily and Michael, who would now have opportunities she had nearly lost forever. 6 months later, Maya stood at a podium addressing the International Hospitality Association's annual conference. Behind her sat Ethan, not as her boss but as her partner in both business and life, their shared understanding of struggle and triumph having blossomed into something neither had expected. In the front row, Lily and Michael watched in matching Boston University sweatshirts, their futures now secure. Look for talent in unexpected places, Maya told the audience of industry leaders. The person cleaning your floors might speak 5 languages. The doorman might understand cultural nuances that could save your next international deal. Excellence exists everywhere, but opportunity does not. As she spoke, her gaze found a young woman in hotel housekeeping uniform seated at the back of the hall sent by her employer to represent staff at the prestigious event. The woman listened with wide eyes as Maya described her journey from maintenance worker to executive. Talent never remains invisible forever, Maya concluded, her voice strong with conviction born from experience. What makes us different is often what makes us extraordinary. The languages I once whispered in secret while cleaning empty rooms are now the foundation of my career. The struggles that nearly broke me became the strength that nothing can shatter. After the standing ovation subsided and the crowd began to disperse, Maya made her way to the back of the hall where the young housekeeper still sat, seemingly unable to move. What languages do you speak? Maya asked gently, extending her business card. The woman looked up in surprise. 3, she whispered. But no one knows. Maya smiled. They will now. Sometimes transformation isn't just about changing yourself, it's about changing what others believe is possible. Maya Chen had done both, and in doing so, ensured her parents' belief that language opens doors would echo through generations to come. Maya's transformation from invisible janitor to international executive reminds us that brilliance exists in unexpected places, often hidden behind uniforms and circumstances that make others look past the extraordinary. Her journey isn't just about personal success, it's about the courage to be seen when the world has trained you to disappear. As someone who's witnessed countless stories of overlooked potential, I've learned that the most powerful question we can ask isn't, "What do you do?" but, "What gifts are you hiding?" Maya's story teaches us that true leadership means recognizing talent wherever it exists, scrubbing floors at midnight, and creating spaces where that talent can flourish without apology. The next time you encounter someone society has rendered invisible, remember, they may possess exactly the brilliant mind, unique perspective, or extraordinary skill your world desperately needs. Their apparent position may have nothing to do with their potential. If this story touched something deep within you, perhaps because you've been Maya, or because you've overlooked someone like her, tap that like button right now. Share in the comments a time when you discovered hidden talent in an unexpected place, or when someone finally saw the value you always knew you had. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that reveal the extraordinary hiding within the ordinary, and remember, your greatest gift to the world might be simply seeing someone everyone else has trained themselves not to notice. Sometimes a single moment of recognition can transform not just one life, but generations to come.